Hello everyone, I am Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IAS English channel. Now you must be reading the newspaper these days, right? And you must be watching that there are ceasefire violations that is happening alongside line of control and international boundary that are borders between India and Pakistan. So are these two terms, that is line of control and international boundary, are these two terms same or are these two terms different? That we are going to understand in our today's discussion. Now, if you want to download the notes for this session, this will be available on my Telegram channel, ATS Live. So you can go and search the keywords ATS Live on the top right hand corner of your app. And also you can scan this QR code and this will take you directly to my channel. Subscribe to the channel and you can download the notes. Now, let us understand why are we discussing this violation of the ceasefire line, because if you look at the newspaper today, particularly Indian Express, you'll see that the front page news article says Pakistan is violating ceasefire all along the line of control and standoff is also happening in newer locations, that is alongside the international boundary. So this is why we are discussing the newspaper, because it was on the very front page of the newspaper. So let us understand the context. Now, Pakistani troops, they violated the ceasefire alongside the several sectors at the line of control and at the international boundary for the 8th consecutive night on Thursday last week. And this has even continued till yesterday night, that is on Sunday, for the 12th consecutive night. And this has been happening since the April 22nd terrorist attack which happened in Pahalgam. And therefore, the violations are made by Pakistani side, particularly the Pakistani army. Now, obviously, Indian army would not stand quiet and it has responded to such escalations in a very calibrated and proportionate manner. Why are we taking a calibrated and proportionate response? Because obviously, Indian army is a professional army. It is a responsible army which does not promotes and perpetrates terrorism in foreign soil, unlike the Pakistani army. So this was the context. Now, what you need to understand from this context, that two terms have been used to address the borders between India and Pakistan. One is LoC, another one is the international boundary. So let us understand the difference between these two terms. Now, before understanding the difference, let us take a very brief overview of the history between the disputes between India and Pakistan. Now, for that, you need to go back in time in 1947, when partition of British India that happened after the Britishers left Indian territory. Now, since the time of independence, then India was categorized into two different kind of territory. One was British India territory and another one, the territories that were ruled by erstwhile king. These were known as princely states. Okay. Now, at the time of independence, in addition to the British Indian territory, India consisted of as many as 565 princely states. So, Indian government, it gave princely states an option whether to accede to Indian Union or to join hands with Pakistani Union. So, out of these 565 princely states, 562 princely states agreed to join Indian Union by signing a formal treaty known as Instrument of Accession. But three princely states, they did not wanted to sign or they did not wanted to join Indian Union. These were Junagadh, Hyderabad and the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, you understand, Junagadh and Hyderabad, they wanted to join Pakistan, but they couldn't have done so because they were not having the boundaries with Pakistan. Whereas the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, it wanted to become an independent state. It did not wanted to join either India nor Pakistan. Right. So this was the position legally at the time India got independent in 1947, that out of 565 princely states, 562 agreed to join Indian Union, whereas 3 did not, which also included the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, after police and military actions that happened in Junagadh and Hyderabad, they eventually became the part of Indian Union. However, the then Maharaja of or then ruler of Jammu and Kashmir, Maharaja Hari Singh, he resisted the attempts to join either of these two countries. Now, to force the Maharaja's hand, what Pakistani army did, that it promoted the tribal invasion in Jammu and Kashmir. But in order to understand these tribal invasion, you have to understand these were not only the invasion by tribals, rather these tribals were aided and led by officers and soldiers of the Pakistani army. So indeed, it was an illegal attempt by the Pakistani government and Pakistani army to annex the Jammu and Kashmir state illegally. Now, fearing this onset, the war that happened due to the invasion of Pakistani-led tribals, Maharaja Hari Singh became worried and he eventually approached the Indian government that was at that time led by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru as well as Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So Maharaja Hari Singh asked them for their military help. But Pandit Nehru as well as Sardar Patel, they disagreed to provide the military help because India did not have a formal stake at the Jammu and Kashmir, because Jammu and Kashmir at that time did not become the part of Indian Union, right? So they refused to help, citing the legal circumstances and legal lacuna that they had. So in order to allow Indian army to liberate the Jammu and Kashmir from the Pakistani invaders, Maharaja Hari Singh decided to accede to India by also signing an instrument of accession. And since Maharaja Hari Singh signed an instrument of accession with Indian Union, the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir rightfully, legally and formally became the part of Indian Union, and this allowed the Indian government to send Indian armed forces into Srinagar and liberate the parts of Jammu and Kashmir from the illegal occupants, that was Pakistani tribal and the Pakistani army. So this led to a war between India and Pakistan, known as the first war between these two countries. And this eventually, after the intervention of Union, both of these United States or United Nations for that matter, both of these two countries agreed to end this war with establishment of a ceasefire. Now, what is a ceasefire? Ceasefire is formal renunciation of violence between two parties in order to end the war. So this happened in 1948, and after that a formal agreement was signed between India and Pakistan known as Karachi Pact. We'll understand Karachi Pact. So this current boundary between India and Pakistan, it actually does not mirror what was signed in the instrument of accession. Rather, it is a product of the ceasefire that happened in 1949. We'll understand this, no need to worry. Now, what is India's current boundary with Pakistan? You can understand this from the map. Now, India shares its boundary with Pakistan in different states and union territories. First is Gujarat. Then Rajasthan also has a sizable amount of boundary with Rajasthan, followed by the state of Punjab. And this boundary also stretches into the existing union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So, from this map, what you understand? 3 states in Indian Union and 2 union territories, they share boundaries with Pakistan. So the boundaries that India has with Pakistan in Gujarat, in Rajasthan, in Punjab and few parts of Jammu and Kashmir, these are termed as international boundary. Why are these termed as international boundary? Because both India and Pakistan formally accept this boundary as a separation between these two countries. So this is recognized legally as an international boundary. But the parts of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, it is not recognized as an international boundary. Rather, these are called as the line of control. Why are these called as line of control? Let us see the next slide. Now, if you see the slide, this is the formal separation according to the instrument of accession that separates India and Pakistan on the west and India and China on the east. That is the entire region of Jammu and Kashmir. But in practice, after the end of 1948 first war between Indo and Pakistan, they achieved what was known as ceasefire. And in this ceasefire, the position of Pakistani government and Pakistani army was up till this line. So this line, up till today, it separates Indian army in the east and Pakistani government and Pakistani army on the west. So this is an informal arrangement by these two countries where they accept this line as a formal separation or an informal separation between these two countries, and these are called as line of control. Now this informal separation between India and Pakistan, which not accedes to the instrument of accession, is known as LoC between India and Pakistan, and this illegally occupied territory of Aksai Chin, which is captured by China in 1962 war, this boundary is termed in India as a line of actual control. So both these two are informal separation between the countries India and Pakistan on the west and India and China on the east, known as LoC and LAC respectively. Right? Now, why and where this LoC term originated from? Now, if you look at the nature of boundary between India and Pakistan, this is called as line of control between in the states of Jammu and Kashmir, and this serves as a de facto military boundary between these two countries. Now, what is de jure term, which you might have heard in your polity classes? De jure means legal, it means formal, and it means rightful. Whereas the word de facto, it means informal, it means actual, and it means what is there in reality, right? So this LoC is a informal boundary between India and Pakistan in the parts of Jammu and Kashmir. Does it stretches the entire region of Jammu and Kashmir? You can see from this map, there is a part of Jammu and Kashmir here where there is international boundary. And this majorly rests to the region of Jammu in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Whereas rest of Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, this is called as LoC. Understood? Now this term LoC, originally it was called as a ceasefire line, which was a product of Karachi Agreement that was signed between India and Pakistan in 1949. Now after the end of war in 1947-48, the actual ground positions of these two armies was separated by what was known as ceasefire line. And this very line came to be known as line of control after the Simla Agreement, which was signed between Indira Gandhi from India and then Prime Minister of Pakistan, Zulfikar Bhutto, right? They signed Simla Agreement in India in 1972, and this ceasefire line after Simla Agreement came to be officially known as line of control. So this is an informal boundary between India and Pakistan in parts of Jammu and Kashmir. Now line of control is the military border without any prejudice to the recognized position of the other side. What is meaning of this term? That means after agreeing that LoC is the informal boundary, both of these countries recognize that this is not a final boundary between these two countries. This is a workable arrangement until and unless both of these countries agree to a particular border in the Jammu and Kashmir region. Therefore, LoC is not a legally recognized international boundary, but it is just a holding line for both the militaries. On Indian side, it is a holding line for Indian Army, and on the Pakistani side, it is the holding line of the Pakistani Army. And the length and coverage of LoC is that it spans approximately 740 kilometers, stretching from Ladakh in the north to Poonch in the Jammu region in the south, right? And the security and militarization of this boundary, it is a highly militarized zone which frequently witnesses cross-border firing and skirmishes between the armed forces of these two nations. Why this militarization and frequent skirmishes and cross-border firings happen, I'll tell you in our today's discussion. So you understand, this is not a legally recognized boundary. This is just an informal arrangement which shows the holding line of the respected militaries. Now you can see this is the actual ground position of the line of control. If you can see from this map, part of Jammu and Kashmir, it is illegally occupied by Pakistan. This is known as Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Another territory which is illegally occupied by Pakistan, it is called as Gilgit-Baltistan. So this also is the line of control which stretches up till Siachen Glacier here. Now this was the area which earlier was the part of Gilgit-Baltistan, but you understand Pakistan has the audacity to illegally transfer it to China. And China also captures a significant amount of our territory in Aksai Chin region, which it formally gained control in 1962. But this is not the formal territory of China. This is a official territory of India because this entire boundary belongs to India as per the instrument of accession which was signed between then ruler of Jammu and Kashmir, Maharaja Hari Singh, and the Indian government. Understand? Now let's see what is the territorial demarcation of the line of control. You can see it stretches both in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh region. So on Indian side, it encompasses what? It encompasses part of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, and on the Pakistani side, it covers Pakistani occupied Kashmir and the territory of Gilgit of Baltistan. So you must remember this. Part of Jammu and Kashmir, this is called as international boundary. Rest of it is line of control. Whereas in terms of Pakistani occupation, this has POK as well as Gilgit-Baltistan. Now, over the decades, LoC has acted as a de facto border between India and Pakistan. This I have told you, the difference between de facto and de jure borders. And given the military and background character of LoC, on-ground positions of either side needs to be defended mostly by two armies. So, there is also the difference between the forces that are deployed on the boundaries. Now, on international boundary, that is in the boundaries located in states of Gujarat, Rajasthan and Punjab, here the border on the Indian side, these are manned by India's Central Armed Police Force known as Border Security Force. Similarly, on the Pakistani side, it is manned not by Pakistani Army but by Pakistani Ranger. And this I am talking about international boundary. But when it comes to LoC, you understand this is a workable arrangement which formally separates the holding position of these two armies, right? So LoC is defended and held mostly by the Indian army on the Indian side and the Pakistani army on the Pakistani side. So BSF is there behind Indian army and Pakistani Rangers is there also on the LoC, but they are positioned behind the Pakistani army. On the other hand, international boundary, the primary force responsible for guarding them on the Indian side is BSF, and on the Pakistani side, these are Pakistani Rangers. Understand the difference. Now, the soldiers on this side, they are mandated to ensure that the other side does not attempt to make any unilateral change to the LoC without and to prevent any unauthorized infiltration. But does this mean any attempts to unilateral change has happened even after Simla agreement? This has not, this has indeed happened. And do you mean any unauthorized infiltration does not take place? This indeed take place, because if you remember in 1999, the Pakistani armed forces who were garbed under the thinking that they made to think India that they were actually terrorists and not Pakistani army officers and soldiers, they actually illegally occupied few of the peaks located in Ladakh region and in Kargil region, and this led to a limited war known as Kargil War, where Indian armed forces had no other option but to evacuate those hills from the illegally occupants, that is Pakistani army. And similarly, periodically we see unauthorized infiltration of both Pakistani armed forces officials and also of terrorists, which happens frequently in the line of control. And as high number of soldiers from these two nuclear armed countries there, therefore LoC perpetually remains prone to tensions. Why it remains prone to tensions? This is due to illegal attempts by Pakistani army to undertake cross-border firing. But the bigger question is, why does Pakistani army undertakes frequent occurrences of cross-border firing? The answer is they do so in order to promote infiltration of Pakistani sponsored terrorists. Now what Pakistani government and its army wants, that by undertaking cross-border firing, it wants to gather the attention of Indian army, because Indian army naturally would be responding to the Pakistani attempts of cross-border firing, and in that case it would provide terrorists an opportunity to infiltrate into India and Jammu and Kashmir illegally. And you understand, these Pakistani sponsored terrorists are the ones that are creating menace and destruction in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And why this frequent occurrences of cross-border firing happens? Because on India side, what India wants with Jammu and Kashmir, it wants peace and tranquility to prevail in the region. It wants economic development of the region, and to do that it needs a good security infrastructure in the entire union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. But Pakistan does not want that. Pakistan wants that Jammu and Kashmir should remain under the garb of terrorism and insurgency, so that Pakistan can show it to the world that India is illegally occupying Jammu and Kashmir, which is not the right thing to do, because India, as it has signed a formal agreement with Pakistan, with then ruler of Jammu and Kashmir, therefore India has a formal, legal and rightful control of Jammu and Kashmir. Therefore, in order to promote terrorism, in order to promote disturbance, and in order to prevent economic development, Pakistani sponsored these terrorists. And therefore, this means that once the firing happened between these two countries after the Simla agreement, so ceasefire agreement did not exist after that. So technically, ceasefire agreement, it lapsed when the first exchange of fire happened after 1972, and since then, whenever firing incidents happen, both these two sides and the military commanders of these two sides, they talk and they reach to an understanding that they will return to the ceasefire agreement originally. But this time, we expect this situation to prolong for longer because of the terrorist attack which happened in India, and it killed brutally as much as 26 people of Indian origin solely on the basis of their religion, right? Now, to conclude our today's discussion, let us understand what is India's rightful legal and political control of the Jammu and Kashmir region. So under India, you will understand which of the following India region falls: Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh. On the Pakistani side, POK, Gilgit-Baltistan, it belongs to India. Similarly, on the Chinese side, Aksai Chin region, and the territory which was ceded by Pakistan, it also belongs to India. So this entire territory, you understand, according to instrument of succession, it legally, politically, and rightfully belongs to India. So please do not mistake our today's discussion as anything else. This entire region that you can see from here stretches up till here, this legally, politically and rightfully, it belongs to Indian Union. And we expect Indian Armed Forces and Indian government to take possession of what is rightfully ours from the illegal control of both Pakistan and China, and they should do so in not very distant future, right? So with this hope, let us try to end our today's session, and you understand entire erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, which includes J&K and Ladakh Union Territories, which includes POK and Gilgit-Baltistan, and it includes Aksai Chin and ceded territory of China. This belongs legally, rightfully and politically to India. So before ending this session, I'd like you all to solve this particular PYQ. This is the PYQ that you need to solve. Sorry, this is a practice question, not a PYQ. Please let me know the correct answer to this practice question in the comment section. And if you need to download the notes, these will be available on my Telegram channel, ATS Live. Understand? So please solve this question and let me know the correct answer in the comment section. And with this, I take your permission to end the session. I will see you again tomorrow, and please have a very good night.